Welcome back to State of Sonder. Today's episode is with my oldest friend, one of my best friends, Melisa Rios. We've been friends since kindergarten, which is crazy to think about. And she's the only person in the world that calls me by my legal name, Deborah. Not even my family members call me that. So it's like super endearing because that's like her thing with me. I wanted to have Melisa on since I started State of Sonder. She was always top of mind, but we don't live in the same city. She lives in San Francisco. I live in LA. And so whenever she'd be in town, timing just didn't work out. And then we decided to go on this very spontaneous and random trip to Europe. And I do think there is this thing of divine timing, because had we filmed this any other time, I feel like the conversation would have been different. And so I hauled ass. I took all my equipment to Europe and we filmed this in Amsterdam, and it was so beautiful. And it was funny because we country hopped a bit. And so every time I went through security, they would pull my bag. And I was just like, oh, like every time I'd be like, please don't, please don't. And then lo and behold, they would go to the other belt. They'd have to open everything up because I just had so much gear. But it was so worth it. And Melisa is just one of the strongest people I know. She is just so full of love and compassion and generosity, and she's just gone through so much, which you'll hear in this episode. And going into this, I just wanted to create space for her to share her story in whatever capacity she was willing. And I was just so grateful that she was so open and so vulnerable, and that she was willing to revisit and go back to places that were deeply painful and traumatic for her. And yeah, she just is so amazing. And I just think that navigating through these times and being able to go through it instead of circumventing around it, and really trying to do the work internally to heal, to grow, to become a better version of herself, to get to a point where she could look back on these really hard times and look at them with beauty, and also even take accountability for herself in ways that she showed up during those times, I think is so powerful. And it's really hard to get to. And she really did a lot of work to get there. And I just admire her so much. And she's just someone who really stands by her values, who fights for the betterment of humanity and is super vocal about it. And you know, I'm just so blessed and honored to have her in my corner, and she inspires me every day. I respect her so much and I love her so much. And doing life with her is one of the greatest joys of my life. And I feel incredibly lucky. And this episode means a lot to me. So I hope you listen with kindness and compassion, and I hope you enjoy. Hi, Melisa. Welcome to State of Sonder.
Thank you.
We are here in Amsterdam, and it is actually a beautiful, beautiful day.
Yeah.
The sun is in my face. Okay, should we start with...
Should I get like an umbrella to hold it while we talk so that the sun's not in your face?
No, okay, no, it's okay. I'm just gonna be like this the whole time. It's fine. So we came on this Europe trip very spontaneously. It was like my Eat, Pray, Love trip, and I had thought about going on a trip at the end of July-ish. When I was in New York, I was pondering. I felt like I needed a bigger trip, and then I was thinking about going on it alone, and then we happened to be talking. And I just was like...
Deborah texted me one day at the end of July or like sometime around that month. And she was like, do you have any plans to go to Europe in the fall? And I remember I responded being like, no, but should I? And then here we are, lo and behold.
I feel like especially at our age, like we're both in our 30s and like life is a lot busier. It's so much harder to go on just like random trips. But I'm pretty spontaneous in my nature, and I like to do things without like that much of a plan. I wasn't always like this, but I am very much like this now. So the fact that you were willing was amazing. Okay, but so we did London, we did Paris. Now we're in Amsterdam. We're going to be in Copenhagen tomorrow.
We leave Amsterdam tomorrow, which is very sad.
Very fucking sad.
So sad. We're both...
We love it here.
Yeah, we're both... It's just gorgeous. Like look at this.
Okay, with this view, can you explain this situation that we're in?
Okay, so when Deborah brought up this trip to me, Deborah and I have known each other since kindergarten.
As you can tell, she calls me Deborah.
Oh, yeah.
The singular person in the world that calls me this.
Except for now all my European friends calling you Deborah. Because that's how I call you. Yeah, so when Deborah brought this up to me to go on this trip, I really wanted you to have just an amazing trip. I just kept thinking about everything that you're going through and how much you've been there for me throughout really, really, really hard times in my life. And I just felt like this was such a perfect opportunity to kind of give that back to you and kind of love you. Not like I don't love you normally in return, obviously, but just to do something special. And so when we were first looking up places in Amsterdam to stay, I found this houseboat that we're sitting on. And I sent it to Deborah, and both of us were like, oh my God, yes, like, let's do it, let's book it. But then obviously as the trip plans started, coming into focus, we realized how expensive everything was getting, and we both agreed astronomical, and we both agreed that maybe we shouldn't book the houseboat because it's the most expensive accommodation, and yeah, we wanted to go shopping and not worry about it. So we agreed that we weren't going to book it. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, no, like, she has to stay there. Like, also, it's both of our first times in Amsterdam, which is exciting for me because I feel like I've been to so many different places throughout Europe, but not ever the Netherlands, never Amsterdam, obviously. So I also just felt like it would be so special for both of us to have, a unique stay, and what a unique stay this is,
Honestly, truly.
So I ended up telling Deborah that my mom has a family friend who lives in Amsterdam, and they're going to let us stay at their apartment while we're here. So this whole time she's just been thinking that we're just staying at my family friend's house. And obviously I booked this houseboat. And so the morning that we got to Amsterdam, like, we've been waking up every morning at like 5 a.m. on our travel days because our trains have been at like 7 a.m. And every morning, like the other mornings that we've had to wake up early, I've been so out of it, like just so cranky and just all the things. But this one specific morning when we were coming to Amsterdam, I was so excited and had so much energy because I knew I was going to be surprising her. So yeah, that's how we're staying here. I ended up surprising you.
We got here from the Uber, and right across from us on the other side are these like beautiful like apartment buildings. So we get out, and I'm like, oh, like, so we're going to be staying here. So cute, like right in front of the canals. I love it. And then she's like, we need to go across the street. And I'm like, at this point, like, I did not sleep well the night before. I woke up at 4 a.m. because I had to post my podcast.
Yeah, when did it hit you that, like,
well, then you're like, we had to cross the street, and then I look across the street and I look down, and I'm like, it's just road. Like, there's so much road to walk, and we had so much luggage. So I was like, oh man, this is gonna be a doozy. But then she just keeps walking, and then it like dawned on me. I was like, wait, I recognize that little nook from the photo, and I was like, oh my God. And she has a video where I'm literally like, Misa, this was not the plan, Misa. And then we're here now.
It's so funny. Deborah's also the only friend of mine that calls me Misa. Like, I call you Deborah, which no one else calls you, and you're my only friend that calls me Misa because that's been a family name. Like, that's what my family calls me. My nickname is Misa. But like only family. Like, I really don't have friends who call me Misa except for you.
I don't even know how that happened.
I don't know either.
But I don't know you as anything else.
Yeah.
But okay, so we're here now, and it's been lovely. And I've wanted to podcast with you since I started my podcast because I feel like
I'm honored.
Like so oh my God. We're re-recording our first one. Like, we literally had like ADHD and like could not.
I also feel like I literally was just talking. Like, I was like
word vomit.
It was like an encyclopedia version of my life. Like, it was too much talking.
So we're
too many details, oversharing, like.
But like now, but basically we just have so much ground to cover, and so we're going to try to do this the best that we can in a better flow. But I guess we start with how we've known each other. Like we've known each other since kindergarten.
Yeah, you're my oldest friend.
Yeah, and then
Literally.
and the reason I wanted to podcast with you so much is because when we do get to see each other, because it's not very often, you live in San Francisco, I live in LA, but when we do, we talk for hours on end. So I was like, okay, I feel like this would be so great for a podcast. But anyway, yes, we were friends since kindergarten. And then why don't we talk about your, because you've moved so many times and there were pockets of my life where I'm like, I literally don't even know where Misa went because she just would be there and then disappear for a few years and then come back. And I'm just like, oh, hey, you're back.
Yeah.
Where were you?
Yeah, my family moved a lot when I was growing up. I actually moved like every 4 years growing up. If not literally every 4 years, but the most time I ever spent in one place at a time consecutively was 4 years. As I was a kid, I was actually born in the Bay Area. I was born in this town called Walnut Creek. And then my parents moved to Los Angeles when I was 4.
I think I need to wear these.
What?
Like, I think I need to wear these.
Yeah, probably a good idea. Put your sunglasses on. You look chic.
Thanks, babe. Okay.
Gorgeous. My parents divorced that year as well. I think I was like 4 or 5 when my parents got divorced. And my mom started working for Nestle, and they had relocated her to New Jersey. So I was in LA from kindergarten until 3rd grade. Then we relocated to New Jersey with Nestle for 4th and 5th grade. I was living in New Jersey actually when 9/11 happened, which was crazy. Because a lot of kids that I went to school with, their parents commuted into the city for work. That was not an uncommon thing. That was a crazy time. Anyway, and then Nestle moved us back to LA for 6th and part of 7th grade. So I saw you then. And then my mom got remarried to my stepdad, Todd, who also worked for Nestle. And they relocated him to Switzerland in the middle of 7th grade. So then I was in Switzerland for half of 7th, all of 8th, 9th, and 10th. And then I came back to LA to finish high school.
11th
and 12th.
And that's when I feel like we got really, really close.
Yeah.
And then after that, obviously you went to New York. I mean, you went to school, college in upstate New York. I was in the city. I remember you came down once and we hung out. And then after that, okay, no. See, I'm going all over the place.
I know.
So I kind of want to know, because you've moved so much, right? Like as a child, I grew up in the same neighborhood until I was 18 years old. So like locking out a shout out, but I don't know, shout out. Just kidding. But I never moved. So like I've never had that experience of having to be the new kid. And like you had to do that so much. And so how did that kind of shape you and impact you? And like, did you find that it was very difficult, or did you feel like wherever you were, you just kind of like adapted?
Yeah, I mean, I think as a child, I think any child that's going through that in that time, it's very difficult. You know, like it's really hard being the new kid anywhere.
Yeah.
I think it's given me like anticipatory anxiety as an adult to be the new person in places. Like whenever I join a new gym, I'm always really nervous before going, or like if I have to take, like I feel like a little bit of inhibition of wanting to join things because I'm fearful of being the new person. I don't like it. But with that being said, I also do feel like I have a natural talent of like adaptability. I do feel so adaptable, and I don't think I would have been that way if it weren't for how much I had to move. But it really just teaches you so much about culture and people and the world. It just opens up your mind in a way that I don't think I would have had otherwise. Or maybe I would have just in a different capacity. Like even you, like moving to New York City from La Cañada was a huge culture shock. Like,
oh yeah.
And that's in the same nation. You know what I mean? I felt the same way when I moved to New Jersey as a kid. Like Jersey girls are so different to LA girls. Shout out to my Jersey girls.
And I'm sure like going somewhere like Switzerland, which is crazy. It's like
that was
different.
Yeah, that was literally the best time of my whole entire life. Moving to Switzerland was the greatest gift I could have ever had. But it also was so hard in the beginning. It was so hard in the beginning. I remember sitting in the car before my first day of school. And mind you, I was coming in the middle of the year, too. It's even worse.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like middle of the year, new kid, like don't speak French. I was going to an international school, to be fair, so there are a lot of English speakers anyway. But I remember sitting in the car with my mom before I walked into school and just crying and being like, I don't want to do this. Like, it was really hard. And also with friendships specifically, you know, even coming back to LA was really hard because even though it was familiar and I knew people and obviously had my own friends that I'd stayed in contact with despite having moved a bunch, when you come back to a place that you once knew and people you once knew, they're all different. They've all changed so much.
Yeah. And you've like kind of, it's like you pause that friendship and where it was at that time, but then like so much life happens in between.
Exactly.
And they don't know your life over there and you don't know their life here. And also where we grew up, like everyone grew up together. So like we just know each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like everyone grew up together.
Yeah.
I don't think it was really common for people to move from La Cañada. So I also felt just completely alone in that experience as well. But again, like I honestly wouldn't trade it for the world. And I genuinely think that if I ever were to have kids, I also would love for them to move. I don't think that I want them to move as much as I had to move.
Right.
But I would like them to have a few moves throughout their life to have that similar experience. Me and my sister talk about this a lot because Liana is a bit different in that she's like, I don't want my kids to have to go through what we went through.
Yeah.
Even though I think she also fully appreciates it and appreciates that experience. It is hard. It's hard on children to go through that.
Yeah.
But now look at us. Like we're traveling and I feel very at home in Europe and I feel very familiar and I have so many beautiful friends out here.
Which has been really nice to like experience this side of your life with you because it's like your friends in Europe are so lovely and
They're amazing.
So fun. And they were friends from your
childhood as well. Like,
Caitlin.
yeah, I've known Caitlin since I was 13, Jan since I was 13.
Yeah.
It's such a blessing. Like one of my other best friends, Tegan, lives in Australia and we met when she was, I think I was 14. She came the year after me to Switzerland. So yeah, it's just incredible. Like I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah. And then we go to college and after college, I kind of want to talk about your career journey just because it's been interesting and it's been a bit of a wild ride. So let's start with when you went back to like San Francisco to be with your dad.
So after I went to college in upstate New York, like Deb said, after I graduated, honestly, I was the type of person that went to college because I just thought that's what you were supposed to do. My mom's an immigrant from Ecuador, and it was very important to her that we go to college, my sister and I. So it just was not ever like a question in my mind. Like it wasn't even like an option. Like I was going to college. I think at that age, I'm also really young for our grade. Like I started kindergarten when I was 4. I graduated high school right after I just turned, I think, 18. Like I was the last one to turn 21 in college. Like I was always the younger person. And wait, what was I saying?
We were talking about your career journey and like how you didn't like school.
So
you went to college because your mom wanted
That's so ADD. Yeah, so I went to college, you know, just not knowing what I want to do, and I still don't know what I wanted to do. I ended up like studying like communications, like
That's what I studied.
Yeah,
I mean, it's so broad.
it's so broad. It's so broad. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I just you know, I have no idea what I want to be when I grow up, and so I think I felt that way also back then, and so I just kind of went and I wanted to be close to my older sister who was going to Parsons in New York City, but I was too scared to live in the city because it's so, as you know, just insane hectic. And after I graduated, I didn't know what I wanted to do, but my dad was going to be going through chemotherapy for the first time. He was diagnosed with prostate cancer, stage 4 metastasized, when I was 16. So he had been going through many, many treatments up until that point in life, but never chemo. He had done radiation a few times, hormonal therapies a few times, but again, just never chemo. And so I moved in with him because I didn't want him to go through that experience alone. And while I was living in San Francisco that first year out of college, I worked 3 different jobs, 7 days a week. I was a nanny, I worked at a restaurant, and I was an intern at a event planning company, specifically a wedding planner for a wedding planner. And kind of at the end of that first year, my dad had met my now stepmom, who I absolutely love. And they were going to get married. And so it felt like a good time for me to leave and to move out. And then simultaneously, my mom and my stepdad were living in Ohio because of Todd's work. Again, they had relocated him. Nestle had relocated him to Ohio. So they were living in Ohio at the time. And my 2 family dogs, Buddy and Molly, ended up having a single puppy, Ever, who's my dog. And when Ever was born, I was like, that's my dog. I'm going to like quit all my jobs and move home for a period of time. So I ended up moving to Ohio for like 6 months and just spent all my time training Ever and loving Ever and traveling with Ever and doing everything I could to get to know him and communicate with him and figure out our flow. And then during that time, I had gotten a call from my brother-in-law's brother, who was working at SpaceX at the time. And he asked if I'd be interested, because we were just having a conversation about what I didn't know. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my career. Or like, yeah, I just was confused. And he asked me if I'd be interested in SpaceX. So nepotism led me to my next job, which was working at SpaceX. The first year I was there, I was working as a senior. It was like, I forget what my title was, recruiting coordinator, senior recruiting coordinator, because the main recruiter that I was working for recruited for VP level and above. So I ended up actually getting to know a lot of the executives at SpaceX. And then for my second year at SpaceX, the VP of customer operation and integration had asked my then boss, Ben, if he could take me as his EA. So that second year at SpaceX, I ended up becoming an EA. And then I quit SpaceX at the end of 2017 because my younger sister had passed away in a car accident in March of 2017. And by the end of the year, I was just really struggling with my mental health. And I knew I needed a break. So I took some time off with no idea of what I was going to do, no plan. And then my first boss, Ben from SpaceX, reached out to me during those 3 months that I was unemployed and said that he knew of someone that was looking for an for an estate manager, and asked if I would be interested in the job. And I was like, well, I've never done it before. But he was just like, I think you have the right personality and skill set to be successful. And so he linked me with this tech billionaire. And that's how I started becoming, that's how I started my job as an estate manager. And I worked for him for under 2 years. And then I ended up getting recruited by other agencies to interview with other people. And at that point, I think I realized that like I was ready to not work for a white rich man in tech. And so I met my next boss, and I worked for her for like 4.5 years, I think almost 5. And then I quit my job in 2023. And I've been unemployed ever since.
You're finding your way. Okay. I obviously know your story, so I know this trajectory, but like
I'm trying to be short.
I know, but we can't gloss over what happened in 2017 clearly, because that was such a impactful and horrible time.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of go back to that, if you're willing, of like
course.
that experience, and then like
how that kind of was, just like dealing with that level of grief and pain and navigating that time.
Yeah. You know, I said this the first time that we spoke, but I really feel like there was a shift that happened in my life. And there was like the Melissa and the life I had before Kayla died, and the Melissa and the life that I had after Kayla died. I think that I've had arguably the hardest 10 years of my life. These last 10 years, I don't know what the fuck has been in the water, but it has felt like since 2015, it's just kind of been one thing after the other. Um, and Kayla passing was kind of the beginning. I mean, not truly the beginning, but it was the first biggest milestone that I really had to overcome. My stepdad is an alcoholic, and he went to rehab in 2015, which is kind of when I feel like all of this really started for me, just hardship and grief. Um, that was a really hard time, and I actually didn't even tell this story the first time we spoke, and now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, damn, I should tell this story. But after Todd went to rehab in 2015, we had visited him. Me, my older sister, and my younger sister went to go visit him in rehab, and it was just a very negative experience. He was very unwell, and it was really hard for me to see Kayla, my younger sister, have to see her dad like that. And I come from a Latin household. My mom is, like I said, from Ecuador, and never in my life have I ever raised my voice, spoken back, um, really had any kind of confrontational communication with her whatsoever. I was always pretty scared of my mom growing up. Um, and like not scared in like a literal way, but I just never wanted to disappoint her. And there was always kind of a very big expectation that, yeah, we respect our elders to this day. I still very much believe in respecting your elders. But after we visited rehab, it was the first time that I really like yelled at my mom. Like it was the first time that I was like, I was just, at that time I was 21. Um, and, you know, I think my mom's had her own experiences with dealing with alcoholics in her life. People that she loved dearly growing up were alcoholics. And I can't imagine how that affected her in terms of how she kind of accepts alcoholism, or how she did accept alcoholism later in life. But after rehab, I was so upset that Kayla had to see Todd like that I just blew up on her. I just was like, you shouldn't have put us in that position. You should have known better. You should have protected us. You should have protected her. And I'm saying it in a calm way right now, but I was not calm or very nice. So after that happened, me and my older sister didn't speak to my mom or Todd for over a year.
Oh, wow.
So like all of 2016, we didn't talk. And that Thanksgiving, the Thanksgiving of 2016 was supposed to be our parents, my mom and my stepdad's Thanksgiving, because my parents are divorced, so we switch off holidays and whatnot. And Kayla had reached out to me and Liana and asked us to come spend Thanksgiving together because she was going to be going to Todd and my mom's. But we didn't end up going because we hadn't spoken to them, and we still were really upset by everything. And Kayla was much more forgiving and, you know, understanding, and I think compassionate towards what Todd was going through. Whereas me and Liana, I don't want to speak for Liana, I was very angry.
Yeah.
And then in March of 2000, so that would have been the last time my family was all together, like on a holiday, but me and Liana didn't go. And then in March of 2017, I was sitting at SpaceX, sitting at my desk doing work, and my phone starts buzzing, and I look down, it's my mom. Mind you, I haven't spoken to my mom in over a year, like since November of 2015, and now it's March 2017. and it's my mom, and I'm like, that's weird. And I just ignore it. Like, I'm not picking up. I'm at work. Like, I'll call her later. And then she calls again. And I pick up the phone, and she goes, hi, are you at work? And I was like, yeah, I'm at work. She's like, can you step into like, you know, in a meeting room or somewhere private? And I was like, okay. Like, I didn't really know. I knew something bad had happened, but I didn't know what she was about to tell me. I didn't know how bad, you know? And then she told me Kayla got into a car accident and she died. And I remember just telling her that she was wrong. I remember just like it's honestly, I have a really bad memory. Smoked way too much weed throughout my life. But that is one day and one moment that is forever etched into my brain, because I just remember yelling at her, being like, you're wrong. She's probably at a hospital somewhere. You don't know what you're talking about. I was just complete denial, like complete denial. Anyway, so I left the meeting room that I went in, and I went back to my desk, and I told my main boss wasn't at his desk, but my other boss was. And I told him, my little sister got in a car accident and I have to go. And I literally just like grabbed my shit and left. And I got into my car and I just started crying my eyes out and just like beating the shit out of my steering wheel. And just like, I was just so like, I just couldn't believe what had happened. And, everything that transpired after her death was horrible. Like,
I mean, yeah.
yeah, I just don't like. So that happened. Liana called me while I was in the car. My mom obviously had called Liana after she called me. And me and Liana were both just on the phone together, just crying our eyes out. Mind you, Liana was living in Philadelphia at the time. Oh, no. Was she living in LA? She was living in LA. Was she living in LA? I don't remember where Liana was living.
She was somewhere.
I think she was living in LA.
I think she was. Well, I
She was
I
in
don't know for sure, but
I think she was in Philadelphia or LA. Anyways, this is how bad my memory is. My mom had called us and basically told us that Todd was living in Tustin, so south of Los Angeles, which we had no idea about.
Yeah.
And my mom was working in New York, and they were still together, but just they had, I don't know how to explain it, but my mom was living in New York. Todd was living in Tustin. They were both working. They were still together, but just living in different places, I guess. And my mom told us that we had to get to Arkansas. That's where Kayla had gotten in a car accident. We think that she fell asleep at the wheel because she was driving. It was like, it happened at like 5:36 in the morning. She was on her way to work. And my mom told us that we had to get to Arkansas before a certain day, like in 3 days' time or some shit, because we were going to have the funeral. And if we wanted to see her, we had to get there as soon as possible, but that we can't fly because Todd had a heart condition and he couldn't be at high altitudes. So she asked if Liana and I would be willing to drive with her and Todd from LA to Arkansas and get there as soon as we could. So my mom asked if we would drive with them because she didn't feel comfortable driving alone with him.
Mm-hmm.
And he was still struggling with his alcoholism, so it just felt unsafe for her to be doing the majority of the driving. It's a long ass drive from LA to Arkansas. So I haven't talked to my parents in over a year. I haven't seen them. I don't know. I didn't know that my stepdad was living an hour away from me or whatever. And now my little sister has just died, and I have to get in a car with both my parents and my older sister and drive for days on end to Kayla's funeral. It was horrible. It was like the most fucked up thing that we had to endure right after finding out like the worst news of our lives. So me and Liana agreed that we would drive with them, but that neither of them are allowed to drive, that only Liana and I will be driving, which is what ended up happening. And yeah, we got to Arkansas and had to go through her funeral, her memorial. It was the first time I ever saw a dead body, which was unexplainable. It's so bizarre to see someone that you love so much and to see just like the shell. You really kind of like, it really put into perspective to me that our bodies really are just a vessel, but they're not like who we are.
Yeah, I get it.
And like seeing her in that way was just so shocking, but like also Liana and I had been grieving so much, like I don't know, it was just like, anyways, we just sat there and just cried our eyes out. And her funeral was really, really terrible for me. She had an open casket funeral, which also is just bizarre, like and at a certain point I went up to the casket and like what wouldn't move. I like refused, like there was like a line of people waiting to pay their respects and I just like refused to budge. And like my mom came up to me and was like, Melisa, you got to move out of the way. And I literally like pushed her off of me, like get the fuck off of me, like don't touch me. And then it wasn't until I forget who, but someone sent over like an elderly person to come and get me away because they knew I wasn't going to push an elderly person. So an elderly person came and was like, you got to step to the side. But I was just destroyed. I was distraught. I didn't know. I was like fucking 24. Like I had never been through death before. I had never been through grief. Like, and having to experience it at such a young age and having it, you kind of always think that the first time you're going to experience grief, it's going to be with your grandparent, or maybe when you're older with your parent, like, but you never think it's going to be someone younger than you. You never think it's going to be your sibling. And I think that like, it's interesting because I was thinking about this a lot last night. Like, grief is by far the worst thing I've ever had to experience and simultaneously the best thing I ever had to experience. And I always used to say, like, Kayla taught me so much while she was alive. Being her older sister was the greatest gift of my life. But she also taught me so much in her death. And having to navigate that journey was also the greatest gift of my life. And she helped me grow up so much.
Yeah. I think a lot of the things that transpired after were so pivotal in your life. And like, it's obviously right after was not easy at all by any means. And you went through quite literally the hardest time of your whole fucking life. And I think to see that journey from then to now, and it's not like the grief stopped with Kayla. Like with you, it's just like, I don't even know how you exist with this bright light and this beautiful heart that you have, considering how much you've experienced, because not only did you experience the loss of Kayla, but over the years, you have also lost your stepfather and your father. And I think as a friend, seeing you go through all of that has just been, I mean, a painful, heartbreaking as a friend, but also to see how you are now and how you've navigated that time. And we kind of talked about this before where I was like, I believe that you have navigated it the best way you possibly could with so much grace and in like a very, very beautiful way. It wasn't always like that, but I really do think that. And I think that it's a testament to just how incredibly strong you are. And it's like so admirable for me to see. And I'm like, goddamn, like she has gone through so much, and she is standing here being just a light to the world, and it's amazing. It really is amazing.
And I so appreciate you saying that. I really do. It means so much to me to hear that acknowledgement. I'm such a words of affirmation person, and it fills my heart to know that that's how you perceive me. And I know I said this to you the first time we filmed too, but like, I didn't always feel this way, how I feel now. And I think that's kind of what I was saying of like, grief has been such a burden in my life and also such a gift, because there was a time where I was not handling it well at all, and I was not a bright light in any capacity. I think what's interesting about grief is like, it's not just the person and the death that you're grieving, it's also grieving the person you were before they died, and the life that you had before they died, and the thoughts of what the future could be before they died. And I think after Kayla died, I was so fucked up. Like, I there are no words to like really express how fucked up I was. Like, and I was so not a good person. Like, I did not have my head screwed on whatsoever. I was like incredibly depressed, obviously.
Yeah.
But like, I think something I learned in therapy really is like, anger is just a form of sadness disguised in a different mask. But I was so fucking angry after Kayla died.
Rightfully
Like,
so.
I hated the world for moving on. I hated myself for moving on. I felt like everything was so unfair that life just kept going and moving forward, but she wasn't and she couldn't. I was so not a good friend. And you know that I have gone through so, like, Kayla's death was not just hard for me because Kayla died. Kayla's death was so fucking hard for me because I lost so many friends after she died because of how angry and probably horrible and selfish I was during that time. And I've forgiven myself, obviously. And I've done a lot of work to understand why I reacted that way and why my version of processing grief was like to just retaliate and be so angry at everything and everyone. But simultaneously, like, I think that the person that you know now was not that person until like the past, like, maybe year and a half, maybe two years. But I only just started feeling better and doing better and communicating more clearly and honestly and openly and wholeheartedly and compassionately, and giving also people forgiveness and space to be themselves and to not be judgmental. Like, those are all qualities that, like, I did not have after Kayla died. Like, it took me a very long time to get to where I am today. It took me years to process and to heal. But yeah, again, I so appreciate you acknowledging me, but I also just think I have to take responsibility for myself, and I have to take responsibility for how shitty I was for so long.
I think it's really mature and amazing that, like, I think a lot of times people cannot take accountability for the way that they have been or the way that they acted or all of that. And that only comes from doing an immense amount of like self work and like healing. But I do think the way that you are now being able to see all of that is obviously very mature and very like kind, not only to your past, but to yourself. I do think though, and the reason I say that you navigated with grace is like, obviously, like when you go through something like that,
like that horrible, and then years to come to continuously experience death and grief in your life, like I would never expect you to be okay. Like I would never expect you to be normal or like act like Melisa right now, like we are parading through Europe. Like absolutely not. And I think when you go through something like that, you are quite literally going into the darkest, deepest like pain of your life. And I think
Like it feels like a physical pain. Like
exactly. Like I can only imagine, right? Like your body manifests the pain. You're feeling emotional pain, you're feeling mental pain, and it's like you just cannot be anything. Like you cannot
see outside of that
exactly.
pain. The pain is so gnarly. Like it's like if my fucking leg got chopped off, right? Like if my leg got chopped off, that pain would be so gnarly that anything happening outside of me focusing on the fact that my leg is chopped off is just not happening.
Right.
And I can't turn around and ask how your day's going while I'm bleeding out from my leg.
Exactly. And I think that is something that I wanted to highlight, is because as a friend who has been friends with you since fucking kindergarten, like I'm not gonna be there and be like, by the way, Melisa, like I'm going through this, like, I don't fucking know, like some issue, like a friend problem, a boy problem, or whatever, when you've quite literally lost one of the most important people in your life and you don't know how to navigate it. Like I think it's very important in those seasons for the people around you who love you to create space for you. And I think that as much as you can acknowledge, like, I was not a good friend at that time, I was not the best version of myself, I'm not expecting you to be, you know? And I think it's so important. And I think you know this now that you have a circle of friends that are, it's a small circle, but it's like your lifers or your family. And I think at that time, we were young, but I also think that what you needed was the space to show up exactly as you are. And you weren't really given that, because I think when people go through things, one thing that I really appreciate and love that I try to extend to other people, that you have extended to me through this trip, is I will show up for you in whichever way you need. If that means you need me to get the fuck out, I will go. Or if you need me to just sit there while you cry and not say a goddamn thing, I will do that. Or if you need me to give you some hard advice and truth, I will give you that. And I think that's what you needed at that time. But people were still expecting things of you.
Yeah, I agree. But I also don't think that it wasn't even necessarily that they were expecting things of me. I also was just angry at them. Like, no matter what, it was never, I just took out a lot of anger on the people closest to me at that time. It wasn't, I mean, I definitely think there was some element of like, I was not showing up for other people. I thought my problems were the only problems in the world at that point in time. I thought that my grief and my pain was the only grief and pain that existed. So I do think there's that element of like, I couldn't show up for the people around me, the friends around me at that time, because I was so focused on my pain that I couldn't even be there for them in whatever capacity they needed. But even aside from that, like, I just don't think I was very nice. Like, I think that I was very selfish. And like, if, like, for example, like, I had asked one of my best friends was on vacation in Europe at the time when Kayla died, and she flew all the way back to come to Arkansas to be there for Kayla's funeral, and that meant the world to me. And two of my other best friends who were in LA at the time with me, I had asked them or invited them to go to the funeral, and they said they couldn't go because it was quite expensive to fly to Arkansas, which I thought was totally fair. And then, like, right before I was going to come home from the funeral, the memorial, and all that, I had gotten a text from one of those girls telling me that she wasn't going to be home when I got home because she was going to Coachella with her boyfriend. And like, when she finally got back from Coachella, like, I just ripped into her. Like, I just was not nice, and I was really mean. I was really angry. And I think I was, I talked down to her a lot about how I felt like she was a shitty friend. And I couldn't believe that she would have chosen to spend money going to Coachella instead of coming to Arkansas, and that also she wasn't going to be there when I got back from Arkansas because I was really going through it and I needed my best friend, and she was my best friend. You know how I feel about her and how I felt about her then, like that was soul crushing for me. But the way that I handled that situation, I don't condone. And I don't think that I'm a big believer that just because you've gone through hard shit in your life doesn't give you the right to be a shitty person. Sorry. Everyone goes through hard shit. Everyone. Like your whole podcast, Sonder, is about the fact that every single person on earth is having such an intricate life and experience in their own life. And they have trauma and hardship that's just as real and honest and severe as mine. And I think that I lost sight of that. And I, again, was just so angry. And I don't think that the me today would have approached it the same way. I still would have been hurt. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
I still would have been angry. But I think I would have approached it in a way of like, you know what? My boundaries right now are that I really need to be surrounded by people that I feel are going to support me. And I don't feel that from you. And I think I need space because I'm feeling really hurt by you. I think there's still a way to confront and be honest without being degrading and mean. And I think that that's what I was at that time. And I think that I pushed a lot of my friends away. As hard as it was for me to be left during the hardest, arguably the worst time of my life, I also think I played a big part in why that happened. And yeah, you're right. It sucks that I wasn't surrounded by people that had the emotional maturity to give me so much forgiveness and space to be mean and fucked up and whatever. But simultaneously, like, I don't blame them. We were so young. I don't blame myself. I was so young. But also, I think going through big things like grief shows you like who's meant to stay in your life and who's not meant to stay in your life.
Yeah, I agree. So obviously, like all of this happened, and I think the past 10 years, like you said, have been just a fucking roller coaster.
A roller
for
coaster,
you.
yeah.
And I think even throughout the years, like we've obviously kept in touch and been able to meet up whenever we were in the same city, and we would talk for hours until we literally get kicked out of restaurants because we're talking for so long.
And like, just really quickly, I think that's also, a big reason why we're here today, you and me. Like, Deborah, if you had not been there for me, and you are only there for me in the capacity that we've ever known our relationship, which is just a one-off like dinner catch up where we talk for hours and hours and hours and it feels like no time has ever passed. But you gave that to me when I felt like I had no friends. Like I went from having this big group of friends in LA and having people to hang out with all the time and blah, 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 to literally being alone because I had falling out with those three girls, the two girls from childhood and then my one friend from college, and I had fell out with all three of them essentially at the same time. And I felt like we also had an extension of a group that I no longer had anymore because they were dating guys in our group and I had no one. And the fact that I still had you to sit with me and just to listen to me vent and cry, and it saved my life. Like, and I mean that like sincerely, like it really, the people that did stick around and tolerated me during that time, they saved my life. I have never been more depressed or suicidal than that time and right after my dad died in 2023. Like, I think I think Kayla's death almost like, and Todd's death as well, because he passed in 2021 and we never had a chance to say goodbye. We never had a chance to mend our relationship. I never had a chance to tell him that I love him and I forgive him for being an alcoholic. And that was really hard to process. So I think like Kayla's death, the loss of all my friends, Todd's death, and going through that also, that death alone, because I had no friends, I think it prepared me for my dad's death, which is arguably, like, outside of my sister, the hardest person for me to lose. I love my dad more than anything in this whole entire world. And I think when he died, if grief has taught me one thing, and if depression has taught me one thing, it just felt like my life was like hit after hit after hit after hit.
Yeah.
And then my dad died, which just felt like the biggest fucking hit. And it felt like life was like, okay, Melisa, you're either going to sink or swim now. Either you're going to kill yourself for real, or you're going to grow up. And that's not to be insensitive towards anyone out there who is feeling thoughts of self-harm in any way that you're not mature, grown up, if you feel that way. I'm not trying to say that. I don't think that was the right way to say it. I think it's just more of like, either you're going to choose to heal or you're not going to choose to heal, and you have to like succumb to the dark thoughts. And I just felt like I had learned so much up until that point. You know, my dad died when I was 30. So I feel like essentially I had 6 years to prepare for that. And at that time, I realized that I can't do the same thing I did the first time with Kayla. I can't become a shell of a person. I can't push everyone away. I can't not deal with my grief. I have to lean into it. I have to appreciate it for what it is. And there's also a lot of peace in being able to say goodbye to someone in a way that I didn't have with Kayla or Todd. And being able to be with my dad until the very end, until his very last breath, was such a blessing, you know? So yeah, I think grief is just like the worst thing anyone could ever go through. And I feel so sorry for anyone who's ever had to experience it. And simultaneously, I think it's just this like beautiful gift. It's like a reminder that life is really short and our life is our choice and our relationships are our choice. And how blessed are we to have people, like, it's that Winnie the Pooh quote that's like, how lucky are we that saying goodbye is so like that you're enjoying the moment and saying goodbye is so hard. Like, it's true. Like, how lucky am I that like I had such an abundance of love from someone like my dad, so that it's that much more painful when he dies. Like, I am so blessed. I know how many people out there don't have good relationships with their fathers, or struggle, or maybe don't even have a father or that type of father figure in their life. And like the fact that I did, but also the best man on earth. Like, I said this to you the first time we talked, but I think it's my dad's fault I'm still single. Because I just have such a high expectation for men in my life, because he was just the best. Like, the way that he treated me, the way that he saw me, the way that he allowed space for me to like fully be myself and just love me unconditionally, exactly as I am. Like,
I feel like obviously I've heard this story a lot, but it always makes me really
it makes me cry. Like, you know, I miss him so much. And, you know, I miss Kayla so much. And I miss Todd so much. I miss everyone so much. But I feel like I have finally come into a part of my life where I can honor them. And I just know that they're always here. Like, I know that I really believe that, you know, a person's soul is energy. And I feel that when that soul is released from their body, it's put back into the earth and it's back into the world. and it's back in me, you know? And I think that's something me and my older sibling talk about a lot. It's we are daddy. We call my dad daddy. We are daddy and daddy is us. And, you know, I see it so much more now than I was able to see it after Kayla died, where like I'll do something or I'll say something and I'm like, oh, that's daddy. Like, you know, like that's daddy coming through me, you know, and I feel that way about Kayla and I feel that way about Todd, where it's like just certain things will happen. And I just feel so lucky. I feel so, what a privilege. What a privilege it is to have close relationships. What a privilege it is to have people that you love so much that when they die, it's so fucking painful.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't mean that I don't still have really horrible, shitty days where I'm still very angry and not dealing with things well. But I think for the most part, I've given myself the space and the grace to just feel what I feel when it comes up.
Yeah.
And not to hide what I'm feeling and to just be honest of like, I'm feeling frustrated today and I feel like maybe I need space. I'm feeling angry today and I'm sorry if I'm coming across aggressive. It's not towards you. It's just something I'm dealing with. Like, I think I'm also just an intense person. Like, you know, and like that's something that one of my old friends said to me that really hurt me in the beginning. We met up a few years after we stopped being friends, and she said something along the lines to me. We like met up in a park and she said something along the lines of me to me like, it's not your fault, you're too much.
Ooh,
Yeah.
ouch.
It was very painful at the time. It was very painful at the time. But the more I think about it, I'm like, you're right. You know what? She's right.
But I don't.
It's not my fault.
I
Actually,
would-
like this is just who I am.
I
Like,
don't even think it's. I don't think too much is the right way to say.
No,
I think
it's
you're
not.
a very passionate person.
Yeah, but
and I think that the way that you are though is like is the reason why you care so deeply about just like humanity and just like fairness and equality. And like I actually did want to touch on this, which is kind of like a hard pivot, but like
no, let's pivot.
you're Ecuadorian,
Yes, my mom is from Ecuador.
and then on your dad's side, Native American.
Yeah, so I grew up like actually really not knowing a lot about my indigeneity. I grew up and it was so funny because I remember my whole life people would be like, "Oh, where are your parents from?" And I'd be like, "Yeah, my mom's from Ecuador, like fully an immigrant. She moved to New York City. She moved to the Bronx when she was like 16 years old. Didn't know any English." And my dad is just like a millionth generation from California. That's like literally what I would tell people. My dad's just like a millionth generation from California because I didn't know like my dad's parents, their parents, like everyone has just always been from California, LA specifically. And it wasn't until later in life that my older sibling started doing a lot of reaching out to family members. We did like 23andMe. We connected with people that she discovered that on my dad's fraternal side, so his dad's side, they're Yaqui. And then Liana got very much, you know, invested in understanding more about our culture, where we come from, Yaqui, and like just all the things. And she's taught me so much. And it has been honestly the most beautiful experience of my life. You know, it's interesting being a person of color. I think a lot of people would relate to this, but I think that growing up, my mom really just wanted to assimilate so that we would fit in and not struggle. And so I wasn't really, you know, like she didn't speak Spanish to me, even though it's her first language. She spoke Spanish to my sister when she was a baby. And then when Liana went to kindergarten, she really struggled in keeping up because she didn't speak very good English. So then my mom switched to English in the house, and then it was English only in the house by the time I was born. And I feel like growing up in La Cañada, it's very white.
Yeah.
And I feel like we both have similarities in that, like, we kind of were like, why aren't we white?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, we felt like that white was the beauty standard. Like, and then also I said to you literally this the other day when we were walking around of like, sometimes growing up, I felt like I wasn't brown enough for brown people and I wasn't white enough for white people. Like white people always thought I was Mexican in LA, which is just so fucking racist. And like, Latinos thought I was white because I didn't speak Spanish and I'm light skinned. And that was pretty confusing for me. And I think in learning more about my indigeneity, it just feels so right. And I still have like imposter syndrome about it. Like Liana's heavily involved in the community in LA and the indigenous community in LA. Now that she has kids, we're teaching the kids a lot more about their indigeneity and where they come from and teaching them values and morals that are linked with our culture. And it's just been so beautiful for me to witness and to also feel, because I do feel so connected to my ancestors. I think I've always felt that way, but I never really knew what it was. And I think I also feel so connected to Mother Earth. Yeah. I've never felt very religious. I've always felt very spiritual. And learning this part of myself in my life is something that has just been such a gift, because I'm like, oh, this is why I am the way I am.
No, I think it's amazing. And I'm so glad that as you've gotten older, you've really like been able to channel this part of you and discover more about this part of you, because it's like, even as a friend, it's honestly so cool, because I think you're the only person I know actually that's Native American, but it's just been really inspiring to see like how you navigate the world, how you understand yourself. And I think you and Liana are just very cool.
Being a younger sibling, I think, is interesting because you learn so much from your older siblings. And I've learned so much from Liana, so much. She is my world. She is my favorite person on earth, truly. I don't know what I'd do without her. I really don't. Like, she's my soul. She's my other half.
So this is our last day in Amsterdam, so we need to go do some heavy exploring.
Yeah.
But I just want to ask this before we wrap, of like, you're about to turn 33, literally in a few weeks, October 18th, by a Libra. But just 33. In this season of life, I'm already 33, bitch. But in this season of life, I guess, what are you trying to channel? What are you looking forward to? Or how are you moving through this time?
Gosh, I think that I finally have turned a bit of a corner. Like we've been talking about, like the last 10 years have just been like dreadful. There's been a lot of good moments, don't get me wrong. But for the most part, it's been a really tough decade. I've had a really hard decade. And I think the fact that I got through it is so promising. I feel really hopeful that I can do hard things and I can get through them. And I'm really proud of myself for that, because there really was a time when I wasn't sure that I was going to make it through. And I think for the first time in my life, I'm really so happy to be single. I think that for women, it's quite hard. The pressure of wanting to be in a relationship, of wanting to start a family, is very real. I quite literally am the only one of my friends, and I don't have many friends, but out of the friends I do have, I am quite literally the only one that's still single outside of you. You are my only friend that is not married and or has kids. And I think the majority of my best friends all have kids as well. So there is an element of feeling like, I can't relate fully to what they go through and they can't relate fully to what I go through, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's so okay. I am so happy to be around my married friends. I'm so happy to be around their kids. Like, how I feel about kids. I absolutely love children more than anything. They are such gifts to this world. The youth are... I just love children so much. Yeah. And I love being around my friends' kids. And there's not literally one part of me that feels resentful in any way of like, I'm not married, I'm not having, like, I feel the opposite. Like, I feel excited, honestly, that sometimes I can be the single friend, because I think it alleviates, like, I give my friends an opportunity to like have that moment, for us to go off and be single together, and they get a break. Not a break. A break is the wrong word.
Well, I know what you mean. Like, you have a moment to...
Yeah, and it's nice that I get to be that for my friends. And I'm just, again, I think for the first time in my life, I'm just really happy to be single. And it's just because I finally like have learned to love myself. And I do really like myself now. And you know,
I really like you too.
thanks. My best friend Alicia actually sent me a clip of Emma Watson having an interview with Jay Shetty.
Yeah, it was just recent.
Yeah, it was just recent. And she talks about why she didn't get married younger in life. And she says that she doesn't think, like, if she were to have gotten married younger in life, she would have been marrying someone out of need, not out of want. She would have been marrying them because she wasn't a whole person herself and she felt like she needed them. But waiting until later in life, it's only because she wants them. Like, she doesn't need to be in a relationship. And I think that that's how I feel now. Like, I don't need anyone in my life. I'm so fulfilled in myself. I can fly myself to Europe. I can book a houseboat on my own. I can navigate through the world. I can lift heavy things. Like, I don't need anyone. But I think I'm finally coming into a part of my life where I want someone.
Yeah.
And I want that energy to be for the right person at the right time, and there's no rush. Even if it means that I don't meet him until I'm 78, that's A-okay. You know, and I think just having that acceptance and that mindset is exciting.
Yeah.
You know, because who knows where the wind will take me. And also not knowing, we didn't really touch on my career in terms of like what I'm doing now, but I don't know what I'm doing either. There's a lot of just unknowns. And although that can at times be scary and is scary for me from time to time, it feels daunting. I think ultimately it's also very exciting.
Yeah.
So
Excited for this.
I'm
next
excited for
chapter.
33.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think everything is like expanding for you now. And like,
Mm.
I agree. I think that like for you at this stage of life, whoever you meet is going to be a choice. And like, I think both of us kind of understand that. It's like love is not just like this feeling that you have, but it's a conscious choice that you make. And you're in a place where you're like, I will only make that conscious choice if it makes sense. And I think even with your career, you're like, I've done all that. I've worked for incredibly wealthy people. I've made really good money. That doesn't fulfill me, and that does not serve me. So
I think it's unethical, just to be clear.
Yeah,
just for the record,
yeah.
I think it's unethical to be a billionaire or just overly rich.
And it's like now you're in a place where you're like, I'm going to wait and I'm going to give myself space and time so that it is something that speaks to me, which I think is beautiful. And I feel like this next chapter of life is going to be really amazing for you.
Thanks.
I don't even think we're going to go into rapid fire because we got to go.
Yeah, we got to go.
But thank you so much, Mies. This was incredible. And I'm so grateful that you opened up in so many ways. And I think that, you know, a lot of people are going to resonate with what you've said. And I just appreciate it so much. And I love you.
I love you. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for being with me.
Thank you for doing this.
On this trip with me.
I love it.
Live, laugh, love, guys.
All right. See you next time.